All right, so are you ready to sleep like a biohacker? Who wouldn't want to, wake up feeling like a superhuman every day?
Yeah.
We're diving into a podcast all about it. Um, it's called Sleep Like a Biohacker, 5 Hacks for Deep Restorative Rest.
Okay. So, pretty catchy title, right?
Yeah, they're making some big promises, though, like wake up feeling completely energized. I'm curious to see what they actually suggest.
Yeah, what science are they actually backing this up with? So, the first biohack they talk about is all about blocking blue light at night.
Okay.
We've all heard about this one. But the episode really emphasizes how important it is. Apparently, the specific wavelengths of blue light emitted from screens can actually mess with our body's natural melatonin production. Yeah, melatonin is super important for that sleep-wake cycle, right? It's our circadian rhythm, like our body's internal clock. It tells us when it's time to sleep and when it's time to wake up. Blue light from our devices is basically tricking our brains into thinking it's still daytime.
So, like dimming the lights, switching devices to night mode a couple of hours before bed.
Exactly.
It's not just some like new age fad.
No, not at all. It's based on real science.
Okay.
Those wavelengths are strong signals to our brains, and minimizing exposure in the evening can make a real difference in sleep quality.
Yeah, the episode even mentions this story about one of the host's clients who was just like constantly exhausted, right? But they were getting what seemed like a decent amount of sleep. They started wearing blue light blocking glasses and avoiding screens after 9 p.m. and saw a huge improvement in their energy levels.
Interesting.
So I'm wondering, though, is there any research that backs this up? Like beyond just anecdotal evidence?
There are actually a lot of studies that show the negative impact of blue light exposure on sleep.
Oh, wow.
It really does disrupt melatonin production, shift those circadian rhythms, even reduce the amount of REM sleep you get. So yeah, there's definitely some science behind this.
Okay, so biohack number 2, magnesium and mineral balance.
Oh, right.
The podcast host claims that 75% of people are deficient in magnesium.
Wow.
Is that even possible?
It's a widespread issue for sure, although that number might be debatable.
Okay.
But the importance of magnesium for sleep is often overlooked. It helps relax our muscles and helps regulate neurotransmitters, which are those chemical messengers in our brains that control everything.
Everything. Like what?
Like mood and sleep, you know?
Okay.
So for those who aren't familiar with neurotransmitters, you can think of them like messengers between your brain cells. Some of these messengers, like GABA, promote relaxation and sleep, while others, like glutamate, keep you alert and awake. Magnesium helps balance these out, which can calm down overactive signals that keep you up at night.
Interesting. So the podcast recommends taking magnesium supplements, specifically magnesium glycinate or magnesium lothrinate, about 30 minutes before bed. Have you ever tried that?
Yeah.
The host talked about their own experience and said it helps them relax and fall asleep much faster. I've heard of this before, but haven't actually tried it myself.
You know, it's worth experimenting with. Magnesium is a relatively safe mineral, but always a good idea to start with a low dose and see how your body reacts.
Yeah, for sure. All right, on to biohack number 3, the 10-3-2-1-0 formula. This one's all about creating a consistent pre-sleep routine.
Establishing healthy sleep hygiene, basically.
Right.
Each number in the formula represents a specific action you should take at a certain time before bed.
Like, for example, 10 hours before bed, you're supposed to stop with the caffeine. 3 hours before bed, you stop eating. 2 hours before bed, you disconnect from work. 1 hour before bed, you power down those screens. And then 0 represents the snooze button, which you'll be saying goodbye to every morning.
Yeah.
I mean, it all seems straightforward, but what's the logic behind these specific time frames?
Well, let's start with caffeine.
Okay.
Caffeine's a stimulant that can stay in your system for hours. Cutting it off early gives your body time to process it so it doesn't interfere with sleep later.
That makes sense. What about the 3-hour eating window?
That's about giving your digestive system a break. When you eat close to bedtime, your body's still working on digesting that food, which can disrupt your sleep.
Got it.
Late night eating can also interfere with hormone production, like cortisol and ghrelin.
Cortisol and ghrelin.
Yeah. Cortisol is a stress hormone, and while it's essential for a lot of bodily function, high levels at night can mess with sleep. Ghrelin, on the other hand, is a hormone that makes you hungry. Late night eating can spike ghrelin levels, and that can not only disrupt sleep, but also lead to weight gain over time.
Wow. I never realized how much is going on when it comes to food and sleep.
It's a whole complex interplay of hormones and processes. That's why the 3-hour eating window before bed is so important. It lets your body focus on rest and repair rather than digestion.
So what about the 2-hour rule for disconnecting from work?
That's all about giving your mind a chance to unwind.
Right.
When you're constantly engaged in work, stressful activities, your mind stays active, and it can make it tough to fall asleep. Thoughts keep racing even when you lie down.
And then the 1 hour screen-free time just reinforces that whole blue light thing.
Exactly. By having this pre-sleep routine, you're training your body and mind to recognize those signals for sleep,
Interesting.
making it way easier to fall asleep and stay asleep throughout the night.
Makes sense. And then finally, the 0 snooze button rule. I have to admit that one's going to be tough for me.
I understand, but waking up at the same time every day, even weekends, is so important for that circadian rhythm. Hitting snooze just fragments your sleep, disrupts those natural rhythms.
Okay, starting to see how all these pieces fit together.
Yeah.
This 10-3-2-1-0 formula, it's more than just a random set of rules.
Right.
It's really a holistic approach to, like, optimizing your sleep.
It is, and while it might seem rigid, the underlying principles are based in science.
Okay.
It can really make a difference.
Okay, so let's move on to biohack number 4, the 4-7-8 breathing technique. This technique is about using your breath to calm down, right? Makes sense to me. Like, I know when I'm lying in bed trying to sleep and my mind won't stop, it feels like my whole body is buzzing.
Yeah, you're basically describing the two main modes of your nervous system. You have the sympathetic nervous system, that's the fight or flight response, and then the parasympathetic nervous system, that's rest and digest. When we're stressed or anxious, the sympathetic nervous system kicks in and you get those hormones like adrenaline and cortisol.
Okay.
So your heart rate goes up, you get more alert, basically prepped for action.
Right, but that's not exactly what you want when you're trying to fall asleep.
Exactly, and that's where this 4-7-8 breathing comes in. It's designed to get you out of that fight or flight mode and activate the parasympathetic nervous system, which helps you relax.
So how does it actually work?
It's pretty straightforward, actually. You just inhale deeply through your nose for a count of 4, hold your breath for 7, and then exhale slowly through your mouth for 8.
Okay.
The key is to focus on that long exhale. It helps activate the vagus nerve, and that nerve is like a major player in the parasympathetic nervous system.
Interesting. The podcast host said they actually fell asleep before even finishing the 3rd round of this. Do you think that's possible?
Oh, absolutely. Deep, slow breathing can be super powerful, both for the body and mind. It slows down your heart rate, lowers blood pressure, and it tells your brain that it's safe to relax.
Wow. I'm definitely going to try this. Is there research on this, though? Like actual studies on the effectiveness of breath work for sleep?
Yeah, for sure. There's more and more research coming out all the time. And it shows how these breathing techniques can reduce stress, improve sleep quality, even manage chronic pain. Pretty fascinating.
Yeah, it really is. It's amazing that something as simple as changing how you breathe can have such a big impact. So we've covered 4 biohacks so far. Blocking blue light, magnesium, the 10-3-2-1-0 formula, and the 4-7-8 breathing. What's this Navy SEAL thing all about?
Okay, so this one, I gotta warn you, this one sounds a little too good to be true.
Oh, really? Okay, now I'm really curious.
It's called the Navy SEAL 2-minute sleep hack. So, like the name suggests, it was supposedly developed by Navy SEALs to help them fall asleep quickly, even in crazy high-stress situations. The podcast says that if you practice it, you can learn to fall asleep in under 2 minutes, anywhere, anytime.
Wait, you're telling me I could fall asleep on the subway? In the middle of like a busy airport? I don't know about that.
I know, right? Sounds pretty far-fetched.
Yeah.
But get this, they tested it on fighter pilots, and after practicing for 6 weeks, 96% of them could fall asleep in under 2 minutes, even with all that background noise.
Okay, that's pretty impressive. Even if I could just shave a few minutes off my usual time, that would be amazing. What's the secret?
It combines physical relaxation techniques with visualization.
Okay.
You start by relaxing your whole body, really consciously, starting with your face. So you release tension in forehead, your jaw, around your eyes. Then move down to your shoulders, let them drop, relax your arms.
So it's kind of like that progressive muscle relaxation.
Exactly. The key is to do it really intentionally with each muscle, slowly working your way down.
Okay, so then you're completely relaxed. What's next?
Then you start visualizing. The podcast suggests picturing yourself in a peaceful, calming setting.
Got it.
Maybe imagine yourself sinking into a cloud or floating in a lake. The goal is to really create a mental image that makes you feel tranquil.
Like a guided meditation almost.
Yeah, kind of. You're basically using your imagination to create a mental state that makes you sleepy.
This is pretty wild. I gotta say I'm still a little skeptical, but also curious to see if it actually works.
It's worth trying, right? Even if you don't fall asleep in 2 minutes, just relaxing your body and focusing your mind can definitely help you drift off.
For sure. Okay, so we've gone through all 5 biohacks now. What stood out to you the most? You know what's interesting to me, that Navy SEAL thing? It's almost like, mindfulness.
Yeah, definitely. It's not just about like changing your surroundings or popping a pill. You're really trying to shift your mental state.
Right. And it's similar to a breathwork thing, too.
Exactly. It all points back to the connection between your mind and body.
It makes me wonder if there's a bigger connection here between those mindfulness practices, meditation, yoga,
Right.
and how well these sleep techniques work.
It's something to think about for sure. We already know mindfulness can help with stress.
Yeah.
And if it helped with overall well-being, it probably helps with sleep too.
So what does this all mean for our listeners who are, actually trying to sleep better?
Well, it means that there's more to it than just buying a new mattress.
Right.
It's about looking at the whole picture. You have to be aware of your environment. You have to understand your body's natural rhythms. And you got to cultivate a mindset that promotes relaxation and rest.
So these 5 biohacks are a good place to start, but you really have to find what works for you, right?
Absolutely. What works for one person might not work for another.
Yeah.
The important thing is to be curious, try different things out, and pay attention to how your body responds.
I'm also wondering, though, about some of these, like that 10-3-2-1-0 formula. How realistic is it for people to follow that every single day?
It's a good question. It's about finding a balance that fits into your life,
Okay.
You don't have to be perfect. Even small changes can help, like dimming the lights every night or cutting out caffeine and cigars before bed.
So it's more about keeping those principles in mind and adapting them to your own life.
Exactly. And don't forget, consistency is key.
Right.
Like anything else related to health, improving sleep takes time. It's about making gradual changes and building habits that you can stick with.
I think that's maybe the most important thing we've talked about today. There's no magic solution when it comes to sleep. You have to do the research, experiment, and find what works for you.
Couldn't agree more.
Well, we've covered a lot today. Hopefully you, our listener, are feeling inspired to up your sleep game.
And if you do give any of this a try, let us know what works, what doesn't, what you discover along the way.
Until next time, sleep well and dream big.